This is Heal Your Mind, Heal Your Body with Dr. Schuyler. Discover how your thoughts manifest disease and what you can do about it. Here's your host, Dr. Schuyler.
Hi, I'm Dr. Schuyler, and welcome back to Heal Your Mind, Heal Your Body. So this is a podcast where we go over how your mind impacts your GI health and your autoimmune health. I am a licensed psychotherapist, and I specialize in the mind-body connection, what stress, trauma, depression, adverse childhood experiences, and anxiety impacts autoimmune and GI disorders. So what we went over last episode was what was the primary influence with the mind-body connection, and it's emotions. Emotions are the glue that connects the mind to the body. So today we're going to go over the other areas that impact the mind-body connection, and this is how I like to describe it. If you think of the mind-body connection, autoimmune and GI disorders, it's like a piece of pie. It's like a slice of pie and a whole pie. So you have the naturopath doctors and heavy metals and nutrition and all that's very relevant. So this is its own separate slice in this whole wellness pie. And today we're talking about the limbic. What ingredient is in this specific slice of pie? So last week was emotions and today is limbic. So what exactly is the limbic system and why is it so important in autoimmune and in GI conditions? So the limbic system is the primary part of the brain that's responsible for keeping you safe and alerting you that there's danger or picking up that there's danger. So it's actually very responsible for emotional regulation and our behaviors as a result of it. So the easiest way to kind of describe to describe the limbic system is through something called neuroception. Have you ever walked into a room and just felt off? Or that feeling you get when the hair stands up on the back of your neck, like something's just off, something doesn't feel right? Well, those are something called neuroception. Our subconscious mind in our limbic system is constantly scanning the environment for threat detection or safety detection. So this neuroception, this thing we can't quite identify, something just feels off. These little neuroreceptors giving you information about your external environment, whether it's safe or not. So what happens in today's society is people are chronically stuck in a limbic response. And the limbic can be broken down into a couple different little areas. So the limbic is responsible for something called the autonomic nervous system. So you have that up top. And it branches down actually into 3 branches, but we're going to talk about 2 branches. It branches down into the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic. What's happening in today's society when everyone is so anxious, they're worried about what's on social media, what's happening in the world today, the news, the wars, grades, money, politics, anything you name it is alarming this nervous system, the part of it called the sympathetic. So the sympathetic is responsible for engaging us to run from the tiger or a saber-toothed tiger if we're trapped in a cave and we come out and all of a sudden there's a saber-toothed tiger there. The part of the primal brain is either going to ignite to fight, to flight, or to freeze. So what happens in today's society when we're constantly exposed with all these stressors and all these pressures and what the disease response itself starts to create stress. It's like this negative feedback loop. The limbic system becomes overactivated and it actually gets stuck. The limbic system puts the mind and the body in limbo and we get stuck in either fight, flight, or frozen. So a fight response, and a really good way you can tell if you're fight, flight, or frozen is if you've ever been jump scared, what's your natural default? Mine's frozen. My daughter's, if you jump scare her, you're going to get knocked in the jaw. Like hers is automatic fight. So you can always tell what your default is, but what happens over this prolonged chronic exposure to external stress and internal pressures is we get stuck in this limbic response. Well, how does the limbic response impact the autoimmune and GI? So think about emotions are in 30 trillion of our cells. Emotions are the glue that hold the mind body together. Our limbic is constantly worrying. It's constantly scanning for environment, either picking up threat or safety. So when it's picking up a sense of threat, like a social media post or news or worried about finances or getting into college or just relationship or work, the limbic system, the sympathetic, is directly linked to the immune system. So now you have these anxieties, these fears, these worries that are activating the limbic system, which is causing an inflammatory response in the GI and in the immune system. So you think of it out two ways. You have emotions that contribute to autoimmune GI disorders, and now the limbic system. And then the constant threat detection that our brain is going through 24/7. Even when we're sleeping, our brain's having dreams and we're constantly looking for threats. So what's happening is our body gets in this limbo state because of the limbic system. And this chronic dysregulated nervous system leads to inflammation. And we know this. Adverse childhood experiences, PTSD, trauma, abuse, neglect, even things like unexpressed emotions or toxic relationships or children who are constantly from third grade trying to get into the right colleges. There's a multitude of things that leave us stuck in this response. So the chronic stress of the chronically overloaded limbic system, I like to describe it as if you have your car in neutral, but you're slamming on the gas. It's just revving and going with no reprieve. So the limbic system also has something called the vagus nerve attached to it, and the vagus needs wandering. So it's this nerve that connects the brain, goes through the larynx, goes through the heart, all the way down to the GI tract. So now we've got another mind-body connection. We've got glue that connects the mind, the body. Now we have this sympathetic nervous system that's connected to the vagus nerve that's connecting the brain all the way down to the body. So if you're having a stress response, that's why if a cop pulls up behind you, all of a sudden your stomach drops. You just feel it. So it's immediate reaction. So if you think about if emotions are feeding the 30 trillion cells in our body, the emotions and thoughts are also feeding the limbic system. The limbic system is connected to the immune system. The limbic system is also connected to the vagus nerve that goes all the way down to the GI tract. So you're starting to see these elements that create this slice of pie that really start impacting the mind-body connection. So what is happening in modern society, and this is a theory I developed, it's called a safety-based theory of the mind-body connection. So if you're looking around, even just the news exposure, the social media exposure, music even actually can cause a limbic response, a sympathetic limbic response. And especially in our children today, and I talk about this at length in the book, it's how much pressure that we perceive is going on that's happening externally and internally that is completely putting the gas pedal down on our nervous system while we're still in neutral and we can't go anywhere or still in park. So my limbic response, and I always like to tell kind of a little story to really convey that I have been here and these are the tools. My limbic response was anger and rage. Fight. It was a fight response initially. Now I've gotten to more of a frozen. So oftentimes I find people with autoimmune disease have unexpressed rage, anger, self-hate, and deep emotions of anger that are unexpressed. So where your symptoms are in your body is where the solution is. So symptoms of your body manifest based on where the vagus nerve is traveling. So if it's in your immune system, arthritis, typically that can be a fight response. GI is typically flight and avoidance. So when you really start understanding what limbic response you are in, fight, flight, or frozen. Now, frozen is actually going to be its own separate episode because it's so unique. And a good example of frozen, and I love to use this example, and I just send her so many healing vibes. But the concept of the stiff person syndrome with beautiful Celine Dion, that is a chronic frozen state, and we'll get into dorsal vagal complex. Oftentimes constipation is a chronic frozen state, or you feel immobilized, you can't move. But that's going to be a whole separate episode because it's so important to discuss how much the frozen response impacts us. But today it's mostly about fight or flight and helping you start identifying, okay, what response am I in? When someone cuts me off, do I feel like running away or do I feel like screaming at them? When my partner or my significant other or my child upsets me, do I lash out or do I want to run away? And especially for people who are in unhealthy relationships, whether it be from adverse childhood experiences, parents, siblings, whatever it may be, or a current partner, what's your default? Do you want to go run in the hide in the closet? Do you hang out in the car for too long? Or do you feel like fighting back? All this knowledge is to help you understand what is inflaming the disease process, how much the response that you're in, fight or flight or frozen, can contribute. So today's session is about understanding and start bringing awareness. Okay, what limbic response might I be in? The one I'm in now is frozen. If something just gets overwhelming, I just want to go sleep. I just want to shut down and go sleep. So I bring awareness. Okay, wait, you're defaulting back to frozen. Be aware of what's happening so I don't recreate the disease response in my own body. So to summarize this, think of it this way. Remember, you got the slice of pie, the slice in the pie. Emotions are the glue that binds the mind to the body. The limbic system in the brain is influenced by emotions and threat detection all around. Either it's going to detect safety or detect threat. In today's society, we detect a lot of threat. The limbic system is fed by the emotions, fed by the perceived threats, communicates down the vagus nerve through the larynx, through the heart, and through the GI tract. Danger, 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 something's wrong. Then you get an inflammation response. And then we'll get into this in another episode too, the connection, the bi-directional connection between the gut and the brain, how they communicate through the vagus nerve. It's like this loop where they keep communicating, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. And many people with autoimmune diseases also have GI diseases, and disorders. So we'll get into this as well. The factors that contribute to limbic response, a sympathetic limbic response of fight, flight, or frozen, are adverse childhood experiences, any sort of trauma, abuse, neglect. And I really want to also qualify this. Especially women are the most diagnosed with autoimmune disorders. Children are becoming epidemic level. And if you think about it, emotional safety is sometimes more important than physical safety. So many times women and children don't feel the sense of emotional safety, and that actually creates a stress response in us. And I'm not negating any experience that a man is suffering at any capacity. I'm a huge men's mental health advocate, huge. But what I want to point out for the millions of women out there, even things like walking to Target or walking to our car, and there's a poll taken, what was the number one thing women wish they could do? And the answer was to go for a walk at night. So I really want to highlight the fact that, especially for children who don't control much of the environment, how much safety does play a role in our lives and things that we don't even think about. So adverse childhood experiences, a sense of not feeling emotionally safe or physically safe, attachment style. We're going to really get into this later. Your attachment style, what you were raised with as a child, and your attachment style with your partner, who you spend the three people you spend the most time with are going to impact your nervous system significantly. And I have this motto, protect your peace. So we're really going to dive into attachment style and how that's going to start impacting your nervous system and your disease process or wellness process. And also epigenetic transmission of trauma, how our ancestors influence our disease response. My favorite one we're going to get into soon is how vibes are contagious, the stress contagion. That plays a significant role in the limbic system, how we catch other people's vibes. Just before the podcast, my daughter was running around going, Mommy, where's this? And I'm like, man, your vibes, like, chill. I need to go online. Like, your vibes are stressing me out. Vibes are really, really contagious. So that's a really significant part of the limbic. Also, what we're going to get into is how much the fight, flight, or frozen, if you look at all the other things that you may be doing, the acupuncture, the heavy toxins, the metals, all that is fantastic. But if you're still in fight, flight, or frozen, it's going to be a moot point. This is going to be a moot point. It's so significant to be aware of the second ingredient in this specific slice of pie. So what we're going to talk about later is I'm actually going to have physicians come in sessions moving forward. I'm going to have patients that I've worked with who have calmed their limbic system, how different they feel. Physicians who have seen people who have been on stomach transplant list, who are healthy mothers. They're thriving in the society. They're thriving in the world. But what I want you to think about today is last week we went over thoughts, how they create emotions, how emotions are the glue. And this week I want you to think about, what limbic response am I in? Like, what's my default? What do I go to? And how much is that feeding into the emotions that are the glue in my body? Remember, we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And if so many of those thoughts are anxiety and fear-based, based on what your brain's perceiving, you're sending those thoughts, those molecules of emotion to 30 trillion cells. So limbic system plays a really, really important role. I really do hope this information helps you guys and it starts making sense. And each podcast, we're going to build upon it. We're going to keep building and building to where you're going to have all these ingredients to the pie and it starts making more sense. So what I want you to do for like the healing work, it's what I say to my pediatric patients, like homework, is ask yourself 2 questions. And I always ask my patients this after like the first or second session. Do you want to heal? And like really think about that. Like, do you want to heal? And a lot of times the parents of the pediatrics that I say, well, of course they want to heal. Of course, who wouldn't want to heal? Really think about that answer and listen to your thoughts. You'll be surprised what comes up. And the next question I want you to ask yourself is, do you believe you can heal? Do you really, truly in your heart believe you can heal? You'll start hearing these automatic negative thoughts creeping in. You'll start having a flood of emotions. And you'll start having a physiological response to those questions that can give you insight into 3 things. What emotions you carry with your disease process, what limbic response you're in, and then do you actually have this sense of self-doubt, which is going to be a sense of resistance, which is a fight, flight, or frozen response as well. So those 2 questions are so telling to me what someone's limbic response is and what their emotional state is, and how much that they have this belief in themselves that they're able to heal. And we're going to get more into what the belief system is. Also, you can go to drskylar.net and start getting some free tips and downloads, especially for parents. If you are helping your child heal from autoimmune GI disorder, you're going to get a lot of helpful tips on there. If you're not a parent, you're still going to be seeing a lot of things on the free downloads. What exactly is a limbic system? How powerful is a subconscious mind? Remembering that our body is a mirror of our mind. So if you hit the download, you'll start getting some tips and a lot of sneak peeks into the book. Sending healing vibes. Thank you all.
Thank you for your time. I feel so grateful you have listened to the end. When we begin to understand how our body manifests stress, trauma, depression, anxiety, and even unexpressed emotions, we then create a space, a bandwidth in our minds to begin to heal our bodies. Healing is a decision, and I am grateful for yours. Abundant blessings, Dr. Skylar.
To learn more about the work Dr. Skylar is doing, please visit drskylar.net. That's DRSKYLER.net. And remember to subscribe to this podcast wherever you like to listen.
Produced by Audavita Studios. Connect your voice to the world.